video and take on a little trip. I'm taking this video from Kauai in Hawaii, where I like to hang out sometime. I'm here for the Shiva Ratri and solar eclipse. The solar eclipse is going to pass very close to Kauai. The sun just rose. I just did a great meditation. You can hear the ocean behind me. We're going to be there in a second. But the eclipse is going to pass right by Hawaii, and I wanted to be here, and I'm going to have a special Shiva Ratri with the monks at the Hindu monastery, the beautiful Kauai Hindu monastery. If you're ever in Kauai, you need to go to the Hindu monastery. It's beautiful. So I'm making this video because we have this Maha Shiva Ratri. There's a rooster here who's going to crow at me in a minute. Maha Shiva Ratri is a Indian celebration that is done in accordance with a certain sun-moon phase. I recently did a video where I talked about the calendar, the Eastern calendar and the Western calendar, and how, for instance, celebrations in India are timed in accordance with the sun-moon relationship. That's the real calendar. That's the real calendar. That's what is bringing all of our events here on Earth. Have you noticed how in the world things are grinding to a point of you know, pressure and breakage and destruction? This has nothing to do with the Gregorian calendar. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's, you know, March 5th. What it has to do with is the fact that the sun and moon are coming together. The sun is with Ketu. Ketu is about taking things away. There's this Kalsarpa yoga in the sky. All of these things, this is what's making time. Those are the things that make time, and that make events, and that produce events. And so when we have Maha Shiva Ratri, it's a specific lunar phase that happens each month when the sun and moon are almost completely new. It's the night before. It's when the sun and moon are very close together and the moon is waning, so you can barely see the moon in the sky. It's the last sliver of the moon. If you've ever seen a picture of Lord Shiva, he wears that moon on his forehead, and like the Odissi or the Bharatanatyam dancers like to do when they go, you know, they go, forgive me if you're a dancer, I know many dancers. This is Shiva, because he's got the moon on his forehead. This means the moon on the forehead. And that that's to symbolize Shiva. He's got the moon on his forehead because it means he has the mind under control. The mind meaning the emotional mind, the monkey mind, the mind that's jumping all over the place, that's jumping around, and that's distracting us and taking us away from our true self. He has that mind under control, and it's burned up. All those emotions and that restlessness and craziness is burned up in the fire of truth, the fire of awareness, the fire of consciousness. That's what Shiva is. He's pure consciousness. Consciousness that's not bipolar, that's not conditioned on a reflection coming back, right? Because that's what the moon is. The moon reflects the sun. So when we incarnate here on Earth, all forms are forms that exist in duality. There's form and there's spirit. There's essence and there's substance. I'm sorry, I'm captivated by this water. Look. It's a beautiful place to be recording a video. Sometimes people ask me, they say, I don't know how you can concentrate standing in these beautiful places and concentrate talking about astrology. Anyway, so once we incarnate on this world, we incarnate as form expressed, or spirit expressing form. So when we talk about the one of metaphysics, we're not talking about the one like this person, me, I'm one. No, you're two. You in form is two. It's the sun and the moon. It's Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha and Prakriti come together to make form. And then within form is folded essence. So essence and substance are eternally linked. This is why you see yin-yang symbols, you see Shiva Shakti. This is what symbolized, this is what Eastern symbolism comes from. Or this is what that symbolism refers to. When sun and moon come together, it's the beginning of a cycle, like the sperm meeting the egg. Same thing, really. You have masculine and feminine come together and create life. So on Shiva Ratri, it's the day before. So when the moon is really dark like that, it's right before it gets burned up in the sun and starts a new cycle. Because just like what happens when the sperm meets the egg, then the sperm dissolves in the egg and starts to create life. Sun and moon come together each month and create a new cycle. I would encourage you, if you're interested in understanding this, you really should be, because this is cosmic timekeeping on Earth that has nothing to do with the calendar. And you might say, well, why is that important? Well, because all of our months and the zodiac itself and the way we draw the invisible lines in the sky are primarily conditioned on the fact that there are 12 lunar cycles, meaning new moon to new moon. There are 12 of them each year. That's why we have 12 zodiac signs. Again, people who talk about tropical zodiac being the one that's more accurate with the Earth and the sun, you could make that argument, but if that's the case, there are 4 cardinal directions. Why not just have 4 zodiac signs? Why is there 12? There are 12 because there are 12 of these cycles each year. And these cycles, these 30-day cycles, are the Earth related to the sun and the moon. And so each year, when the Earth is at a certain point in its orbit around the sun, and we have a new moon, the day before that new moon is Chaturdashi, and it's called Shiva Ratri. But that lunar phase, which is the 14th lunar phase of the waning moon, what's called K14 or Krishna Chaturdashi, is Shiva Ratri all year. Every time it comes around, it's said to be the night when we're supposed to immerse ourselves totally in pure consciousness. It's the night of Lord Shiva. And it happens 12 times per year, but on this one, when the Earth is at this point in its orbit around the sun, sometime in February or early March, depending on the sun-moon relationship, not depending on the Gregorian calendar, but depending on that angle, that Shiva Ratri, that Krishna 14, is the Shiva Ratri. That's the great night of Lord Shiva. So we have Shiva Ratri every month. Right before the new moon is Shiva Ratri. That lunar phase, or that Titi, K14, Krishna Chaturdashi. But Krishna Chaturdashi this month is, what is that? Is called Shiva Ratri. It's a hole. It's like a snake is going to come out of it or something. Look at this hole. Can you see that? I don't know what that is. Something's going to like explode out of there and bite me. There's another one over here. Maybe they're just, looks like something was in there and pushed the sand out. Okay, anyway. So it's very precise angle, and there are very important rules. There's often debate about exactly when do you measure the Shiva Ratri, the Krishna Chaturdashi. And I found out last year from my friends at the Kauai Hindu monastery, the exact formula. It's in the Shiva Agamas, or the Shiva texts, that you have to find the Chaturdashi that happens at midnight, and then that's the night that you do the Shiva Ratri celebration. So it's whenever that K14, that Krishna Chaturdashi happens at your local place on midnight. Midnight is the time. That's the time to look for the Titi. So this year, for example, Krishna Chaturdashi happens on the west coast of the United States at like 11:50, right before midnight. So on the west coast of the US, it's like right before midnight on Sunday. But then for much of the rest of the country, anything, for the most part, east of like the west coast of the US, Shiva Ratri will be on Monday night. So I'm here in Kauai, and the Krishna 14 happens at about 10 p.m. because it's 2 hours earlier than the west coast of the US. So we're celebrating Shiva Ratri on Sunday night. So again, it's a very specific formula. So again, it's really interesting to understand that this mystical and metaphysical timekeeping is very different than our Western timekeeping, which has no reference to anything happening in the sky. The calendar dates in the West, at best they have a relationship to like a season. Like for instance, you know, March 21st is roughly when we have the vernal equinox, you know. But I mean, that's important, but it's not because it has anything to do with March 21st, right? So these cycles, these cosmic time cycles, happen over and over again and again. Each month we have a new lunar phase, or I'm sorry, a new moon, which starts that cycle. And the day before is called Shiva Ratri, which is the night to completely immerse and withdraw the mind, because the next day is when we create the new life. It's kind of like if you're going to give birth to a child even, it's like withdrawing into the pure heart, the pure cosmic heart, so that the offspring is the most divine, I guess you would say. So for most people, for most people in the US, Shiva Ratri will actually be on Monday night. But wherever you are, you know, find a temple to celebrate Mahashivaratri and bring your mind into the heart. Allow it to be burned up in the fire pit of truth. You see that sun over there? Just had this sunrise in Kauai. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to come. It's a beautiful island in Hawaii. And it's going to be a great celebration. So anyway, I hope this was enjoyable. I thought I'd make a video this morning after my meditation to talk about Shiva Ratri. And I took a really nice photo also where you could see the moon a few hours away from Chaturdashi. So you can notice, as I said, all of the changes that are happening in the world right now. And I talked about this several times, with so many of the changes have to do with governments, culture, society. I said this a couple months ago before we started seeing so many crazy changes. It's not just in US election, but also in England and the UK and in Iran and North Korea now, and just all over the world. There's a, you know, citizens defining and redefining what kind of world they want to live in, what kind of government they want to represent them, what sort of alliances are meaningful, what kind of sacrifices need to be made along the way, these trade-offs between security and safety and inclusion, as we get into themes like, you know, Syrian refugees and all of those big issues where the clash between East and West is getting more urgent. I had to get my feet in the water. So this is because this eclipse is happening on March 8th. Again, the date March 8th has nothing to do with these events, but the eclipse totally does. Because the eclipse is in the Leo-Aquarius axis. Leo is about government and our personal power, and of course it shows the individual in the society. The society has to do with Aquarius, not just our individual society, like the relationship of US with its government, or England with its government, you know, English people with its government, but also how our governments have a relationship with each other, and how the peoples of the world have relationships with each other. And these are huge themes now because the sun is being eclipsed in Aquarius by Ketu. And as I said several times already, but I'll just repeat, Ketu is a finishing of karma. There are things getting finished. And I can use the US politics as an example. We've had extremes on the right and the left now for the last 15, 20 years. And you see there's like a destruction of everything, a sort of culmination and ending based on these extremes. From right-wing, hard-line right-wing agendas to hard-line left-wing agendas, and there's a clash between them now, and it's a way, it's trying to destroy the old. It's not creating something new, it's finishing. So there's a theme of destruction right now. You can really see it in the Republican Party in the United States, if anyone is watching, as embodied by someone like Donald Trump, right? He's a culmination of everything that's been happening for the last 25 years or so in the Republican Party as well, with very right-wing like talk radio and news organizations. It's destroying the whole structure. You can see how this has now become a sort of cancer that is destroying the whole, what we call here in the US, the conservative movement. You have this guy come in who is not really honoring any of that. He's not conservative at all. He just knows how to exploit media. And underneath it all, this is one of the biggest things that's getting destroyed, is the complicit, the compliance of things like the media and business and so many other things. We're seeing this whole kind of structure now blow up in our face. As example. And on the left-wing side, you also see where someone like Bernie Sanders and this totally left-wing sort of populist agenda that's a little more mainstream because he's certainly more authentic. I mean, he's been a congressman and he's been a public servant for such a long time, but this kind of dream of a kind of socialism and the opposite of what would be represented on the other side. And also, as the potential to, or in response to corporate greed and excess on the other side. So anyway, there's a lot of, this is happening all around the world. We see in Iran also, where there's a lot of very mainstream, factions now getting elected, or much more populist and less hardline stances being taken. So this is what we see with these eclipses. They're really bringing into contrast changes, and in this case, it's the ending of things that have been corrupted, where we're trying to resurrect a new paradigm by first destroying the old one, and that's what we're seeing a lot of now on the political sphere, and I'm sure you're seeing it in your personal life as well. I use the politics because it's something that we can all see. That's why I talk about the news or the politics or whatever. But on our personal life, it's the same way. We all have these worn out power structures, what we think is going to make us powerful and how it's really not making us powerful and all that stuff. So anyway, enough talk. Give you a little tour of this beautiful beach.